I don't know if you have or haven't seen this pop up, but news is Archbishop Tutu laid to rest in the cheapest available coffin to avoid flashy displays. In one final wish, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, was laid to rest in South Africa in the cheapest coffin available, a plain pine coffin, as you can see here. The Archbishop had wanted to avoid any flashy displays after his death. It's unknown yet how much the coffin cost. Okay? Some people, their dream or whatever is to always have a coffin and to be viewed in a coffin or whatever and all that. Some people just get cremated right away. You never see them in a coffin or nothing like that. But a coffin is very expensive. Even that coffin, being the cheapest coffin, is still a fairly expensive coffin. To be honest with you, today on this exact date, StacksAMilli can't even afford to buy that coffin on this exact date, January 2nd, 2022. If I had to buy that coffin with cash today, I just wouldn't be able to afford it. I would not even be able to afford that coffin. And also, I would not even fit in that coffin. That coffin's far too small. I would have to get a much larger coffin. That is how expensive that coffin is. Still, people would, many, good majority of people would still not be able to even afford a coffin like that. And they are disposed of in different ways. Now, after the viewings and the showings, they either get buried and whatnot, you can get buried and whatnot. And that is your responsibility as a person of yourself. It's not really your family. You can leave it, that's your choice to leave it on your family, to make it their responsibility. But that is your choice. So you can choose not to. You can make it your full responsibility to demand a coffin, to pay for that coffin, to have a proper burial. It costs money. And relationships. Who's going to commence these things? So it all comes down to who that person was. Usually it's a fairly notable person that has funeral arrangements with a coffin and things like that. And it's a very honorary, a very it's a very honorary um, tradition during somebody's passing. Like the biggest of the biggest have these great celebrations of life and funerals and things like that. My grandfather and grandmother had very nice caskets. They're also called caskets. It's sort of a scary word because everybody will end up in a casket, so they say. But that's not the truth. Not everybody will get a casket. Like I said, only the wealthiest of the wealthy get caskets, and then there's even higher up than that, and you have other different ones. Okay, but the wealthiest of the wealthy get caskets. Look at this one. That's a United States Army casket. Okay, the person is deceased, and they put them into this very comfortable bed, and it's made like, okay, this person, they had a home, they had things enough to almost looks like, you know what I mean, that is their new home for the rest of their life. It's a used very expensive materials. Wood is very expensive. They build many things out of wood grain wheels, houses and tables, and you just Yeah, there's a lot of it supposedly, right? But each amount of it is so valuable because everybody wants wood this and wood that. And everybody wants houses and a house. Okay, so you want a house with wood, but they want to build a casket with the wood. So there's only so much wood to make either a house or a casket with. Get it? And the money says you're going to turn that wood into a house or you're going to turn that wood into a casket. So it all depends on who that guy is, who is holding on to that cash to say, I want a table or I want a chair or I want a wood floor or I want a casket. It all comes down to that. And that's what Archbishop did. Tutu. He said, I want to be in a casket. But truth is, he probably couldn't afford one of these Rolls Royce caskets. Okay. Like some people have been rumored to be able to afford. But a lot of people that have said they're going to be in a Rolls Royce casket have not died yet, and they have not been featured in the Rolls Royce casket or whatever things, coffins and things. So, but Archbishop, he said, I was a fairly notable figure, and I have the money, but it will be a fairly humble casket. But like I said, even a pine box like that, that's what they call that, a pine box. Okay, I've heard that in rap music. Um, like I said, it's very. I wouldn't be able to even afford that right now. That is like at least a $300, 200, at least, maybe even up to $500, $800, 1,000. It could be right. Like that is a decent casket. Okay, not. I mean, when you compare it to the, but you get what I'm saying. He could have been just cremated and thrown in an urn and no nothing. That is how notable the Archbishop Tutu was. Because everybody thinks they're going to have this and that. But when it comes down to reality, who has this and that? Okay? Because my dad does the same thing. All right? Everybody does that. But it comes down to reality, what's really in front of you, what's really actually existing. Do you actually have a will written out in actual physical form? Do you actually have the money to purchase that? Do you actually have the communication and relationships with the right people like that's supposed to commence these things? Has it been properly planned out? That is reality. And a lot of people don't realize that about that death thing. Same with inheritances and things. And I was going to say inheritances and things because I was thinking I was in such a classical mood, I guess you would call it. You know, when you're speaking about such touchy subjects as to be of the passing of historical figures, history, everything is history. But anyways, guys, that is my little talk on the, and I've heard of all these decked out caskets. If you want to go into that real quick, there's custom caskets. I've heard of them having game systems in them and TVs. Look at this one. It's got a buck on it. This guy must have, whoever wants to buy that one or got that one must be big into hunting, deer. Teresa loved the Cowboys. This is a freaking expensive casket. Okay, the family paid for that. This guy must have liked the Chevy Bel Air or whatever that is. John Deere. Okay, must have been a big time farmer guy. All right. Another guy, big into hip hop, Mr. Dat. I'd never heard of him, but there he is. I heard of him now. Like that. Wraps. You can get casket wraps. I've even heard, like I said, game systems, TV. Sometimes people put stuff in the casket. Food, drugs like marijuana and whatnot. Gold, jewelry, maybe movies or whatever. Favorite music, CDs, memorabilia. Maybe some of these casino chips or something. Valuables. Um, Pictures they put in with people. Oh, we got a school bus driver. That one's a cool one.